Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for September 11th of 2023, and currently we have a slight risk that does include western Texas into eastern New Mexico, as well as a marginal threat for eastern Florida into southern Georgia that I likely will not cover in today's forecast, but do keep that in mind if you do live in that affected area. And as for our threats for today, we do have a 2% tornado threat for western Texas, and as for wind, we do have a 15% with the possibility of violent wind gusts. And as for hail, we do have a 15% with the possibility of large to very large hail, with hail sizes that could range anywhere from 2 inches or larger across this region. Our main threats for today is going to be our wind and hail potential, with a secondary potential of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes. Taking a look at the tropics, primarily focusing on Hurricane Lee. I know that some of you guys may have some concerns for Hurricane Lee and what might actually be happening, because a lot of different forecast channels on YouTube are saying that it is going to be getting very close to the United States, or that it's going to impact North Carolina. And some of you guys may be wondering what is actually going on with Hurricane Lee. So I'll show you what is actually going to happen with Hurricane Lee. As of right now, Hurricane Lee doesn't look like it is going to come anywhere close to North Carolina anymore. I know some of the models have been depicting that it could impact North Carolina, but that was like 2 weeks ago. Now the models haven't been indicating that it is going to impact North Carolina whatsoever. Our main region that we could see some impacts from Hurricane Lee is going to be the New England region. However, we aren't expected to see major impacts from Hurricane Lee when it does get close to the New England region. It is expected to impact the New England region as either a Cat 1 or a tropical storm. It is expected to lead to some strong winds and the potential for flash flooding and heavy rain across this region. That is going to be the primary threats from Hurricane Lee when it does finally arrive to the New England region. But as of right now, it doesn't look like it's going to impact North Carolina in any way, and it is expected to weaken significantly before it does get close to the New England region. It is expected to strengthen one final time back to a Cat 4, and then it is expected to weaken back down to a Cat 3, and then a Cat 2, and then the trough that is expected to make its way out into the Atlantic this week is expected to introduce some wind shear into the Atlantic Ocean. And if you don't know, wind shear is a hurricane's kryptonite, so if it doesn't encounter wind shear, it is going to become less organized and less intense. So with that trough that does make its way out into the Atlantic Ocean, it is expected to not only push Hurricane Lee a little bit out to the east, but it is expected to weaken it significantly, weakening it down to either a Cat 1 or tropical storm by the time it does impact the New England region. Taking a look at our radar Omega model, starting off with our 500 millibars like we usually do, focusing on the slight risk region. Without our isobars or our wind vectors, it might be a little bit hard to see what's going on. However, you can see that we do have the subtropical jet coming out of the Pacific and making its way across the southern Rockies, the southwestern United States, into western Texas and eastern New Mexico. With mountains that are going to be out to the west, we are expected to see some elongated photographs because of this. Because the mountains are blocking the lower level winds, the mid-level and upper level winds are still able to get across, which is going to lead to elongated photographs and support the possibility of large to very large hail across this region. And without our wind vectors, I can't really show you too well the veering of the winds. However, our wind vectors would look something like this. So you can see that we do have a little bit of veering of the winds across the slight risk region, which will lead to some directional shear to support the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes. But again, our primary threats is going to be our hail potential with our elongated photographs and the possibility of large to very large hail and the threat of violent winds. Taking a look at our dew points, focusing on the slight risk region, you can see that we are expected to have dew points that are going to be ranging anywhere from the upper 50s into the low to mid 60s. We are expected to see the possibility of some dew points that could reach the low 70s and upper 60s across some regions, like right here in central northern Texas and right here in the Texas Panhandle. However, in the Texas Panhandle, with this region of upper 60s and low 70s, this is going to be associated with rainfall and moisture in the air because of rain, so that isn't going to be too accurate. However, across this region, we could definitely see Cape values that are going to be ranging anywhere from the 1000s to possibly the upper 2000s range, as these dew points are fairly moderate, which is going to lead to a more moderate instability. Taking a look at our temperatures, you can see that we are expected to have a little bit of a stationary front across Oklahoma extending from Missouri across Oklahoma into the Texas Panhandle, and with some drier air from the desert, we are expected to see a little bit of an intersection between our dry line and our stationary front. We are expected to see a little bit of a triple point across the slight risk region, which is going to lead to an area of a stronger lift, which will aid in severe thunderstorm development. So with that triple point, the stationary front and the dry line and the lift from the mid-level flow aloft, we are expected to see some severe weather development across this region. All of those factors are going to contribute to the slight risk region. But as for our temperatures, you can see that this cold front is expected to drop temperatures at least at nighttime across the central plains very, very low. We are expected to see nighttime temperatures drop as low as the 40s and the 50s across the central plains. And we are expected to see temperatures that could get to the low 40s across areas like North Dakota and Minnesota. So we are expected to see a huge drop in temperatures with this cold front and this trough that does make its way out of Canada and trigger some severe thunderstorms and mostly rainfall across the eastern United States. But I did cover that in our weekly overlook. So if you want more information on that cold front, do check the weekly overlook, and it should be in the top right corner. There should be a link to the weekly overlook. But alongside those very low temperatures at night, we are expected to see some more chilly air. It is going to be fairly warm, but also somewhat chilly compared to this time of year. We are expected to see temperatures that are going to be ranging anywhere from the 60s into the upper 60s and the low 70s across the central plains during the day. So we are expected to see a major drop in temperatures across the central plains, and that drop in temperatures should continue eastward and affect the Ohio River Valley in the New England region whenever this cold front does finally reach that, dropping temperatures as far down as the 40s and the 30s at night at least. Taking a look at our instability, focusing on the slight risk region, you can see that we are expected to have a fairly moderate instability plume across this region. However, moderate instability ranging anywhere from the low 1000s into the mid and getting close to the upper 2000s across western Texas and eastern New Mexico. With this instability plume, we are definitely going to see the possibility of some large to very large hail and the possibility of damaging winds. With that stationary front that we had across the Texas Panhandle, that is going to leave a strong temperature gradient, which is going to lead to destructive outflow gusts across this region and the possibility of violent winds, as well as the possibility of large to very large hail with our elongated photographs. And I will be going into more detail about our damaging wind potential later. However, with some weak directional shear that we could see across this region and some weak varying in the winds, we could see the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes across this region. Taking a look at our damaging wind potential, focusing on the slight risk region and our 15% with the possibility of violent winds, anywhere that you see any of these yellows, that is going to be enough for the potential for violent winds. As you can see, we are expected to have some regions that could have wind gusts of 60 miles per hour and above, which is going to be enough for this hashed region for damaging winds. So we are expected to have some violent wind gusts across this region, and could definitely lead to some severe impacts across this region. With our strong temperature gradient, we could definitely see violent winds across this region, and we could see wind gusts of 60 miles per hour and higher. Taking a look at our energy helicity index, focusing on the 2% tornado threat, you can see that we are expected to have some fairly low-end energy helicity index readings. However, they are expected to be widespread, anywhere from 1 up to the 2.5s and possibly into the 3s is going to be indicative of that 2% tornado threat. You can see that we do have a little bit of an area that could see maybe a little bit of a higher potential for tornadoes, but overall we are expected to see the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes across this region with these energy helicity index readings, with the directional shear and the varying in the winds that we have. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. If you live in any of the areas that I covered for today, please stay weather alert for the time being, and hopefully I will be able to see you guys tomorrow with another forecast.